this been my favorite artist since I can remember, right?
All
So
right.
just end
I
up
mean, light skinned dudes got to hang together. You
gotta
know what I
stick
mean? Y'all
together,
got y'all
man.
got to stick together,
We
right? I
got we
got you.
gotta we gotta
I
stick
got you. I
together.
got you.
So fast forward, I just end up this is how life works. I just end up in Toronto. I end up here, you know what I'm saying? I've been hearing I look like him since I was 15 years old. So it's just funny, right? And
What's a perk of being down with Dratesky with Champagne Pappy?
uh
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another exciting edition. Yeah, you know what it is. It's Up On Game presents Conversations with a Legend. And we keeping it ball, but we went from oblong to round ball. I got my man Fred VanVleet on the senior, by the way. And make sure you get it right. You know what I mean? Because when there's a senior, that means that there is a junior that's nearby. So, man, appreciate you coming on, my guy. Man, appreciate it. You're my first player, non-football, that I've had on as a legend. So this is historical in some regards, in some aspects, and you got a great story, man. So it couldn't have been a better dude to have be the first guy. So I appreciate you. Welcome into the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man. It's an honor. Appreciate it.
Indeed, indeed. So let's get to it, man. You from Illinois.
Yes, sir.
That's your spot, and they play basketball there.
Yeah.
Now, for what is worth, and I come from a time when, I played against Antoine Walker and all them dudes. That's my era. I was playing
Yep.
for a team out of Pittsburgh, and we traveled around, and one of the main teams out of Chicago had Antoine Walker, right? So you 6'1", dog.
Yeah.
You 6'1", and you balling in Chicago, you balling in Illinois. Um, what was that like? I mean, because basketball is a thing, obviously, where you're from,
Yeah.
and the first thing people look at is how tall are you? You know,
Right.
everybody
Right.
wants to see the eye test. I mean, what was that like coming up in the game? And everybody, I would assume people was like, I like that kid Fred, but man, the dude over here,
Yep.
like the Antoine Walkers, they handling the ball and they 6'8",
Yep.
6'9". Like,
No
what was
doubt.
that like growing up?
Well, it's funny because Illinois is definitely a basketball state. So, that's just embedded in the culture out there. I mean, from you go way back to guys like Zeke, but obviously, MJ's imprint in Chicago and just what that meant to basketball, it just kind of flooded the community. So, the way it worked out with the height for me was I actually played with my two older brothers. So I
Mm-hmm.
was the runt of the group anyway, just by age. You know what I mean? I played
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 years above my age pretty much from the beginning. And then by the time I got older to play with kids my age, I was so much far advanced and more mature than my peers that I was able to make up a lot of what I lacked in like size and even athleticism to a certain extent with just maturity, toughness, and basketball IQ. So um, where I grew up, Rockford, so I just grew up as a underdog. We grew up in the shadow of Chicago, so I was always fighting against that. I was
Mm-hmm.
fighting against playing with guys older than me, and I was fighting against, the stigma of being a little guy. So I knew
Yeah.
that where I wanted to get to one day, and I just studied all the guys in the pros and the college level that was doing it at my size, and that's something that I found a lot of success in. Was like, all right, I know it's possible. It's gonna be a little bit harder for me for sure, but it's definitely possible, and we've seen guys do it.
Indeed. And so you end up at Wichita.
Yeah,
You headed to
yeah,
Kansas.
yeah.
I mean, was it by choice? Was it by necessity? Was it like what how did you end up in Kansas?
Yeah, well, I didn't really like being recruited. Being that I was an underdog and being that I always had two chips on my shoulders, that the recruiting process was really uncomfortable for me because I never felt like it was genuine from the colleges, and I was trying to find a place where I could play and win and have an opportunity. So all of the big schools that I wanted to go to, the big name schools, whether it was Illinois, none of really the Illinois schools recruited me. Those big name schools, they didn't really recruit me. There was a guy from Illinois on the staff at Wichita by the name of Dana Ford. He found me. We created a relationship. And I just looked at it like, okay, this team is going to the tournament. They have a great fan base. They're telling me I'm going to have an opportunity to play. Like, let's go see what I can do down there. And I just committed early. So I committed a little bit early, like my junior year. And then I played out the rest. And I got more interest after that. But I was already committed and locked in to where I wanted to go. So I just went out there and gave it a try.
Then you go to Wichita. You do your thing. NBA draft rolls around. They don't call your name.
Right.
They don't call your name.
Right.
How'd that make you feel, man?
Oh, I was heartbroken. Man. You think about really 22 years of my life dedicated to the sport. The way I was raised and the way that I grew up, everything in my world revolved around basketball. That was our way out. That was, first of all, my way to get a free education. And second of all, this is how I'm going to take care of my family. So, mind you, I've been playing well against all of these guys that I'm seeing their names getting called. I had one of the top college careers out of anybody in my class. I played well. I played well against other guys, but I just didn't match the eye test and I didn't have the measurables. So I had a good feeling going into the draft that there was a chance I wouldn't get drafted. So it wasn't that much of a surprise. My agent, he kind of prepped me for it. But at the same time, I was just devastated because, that's part of the dream.
Still wanted to happen.
That's part of the dream that you don't plan for. You don't plan to not get drafted. When you're at home and you're working on your game or you sleeping, you have dreams, you don't think like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go undrafted. You dream about putting the hat on and shaking the commissioner's hand. So I wasn't really prepared in that regard. But, my ultimate goal was to have a long NBA career. I didn't really care about draft night that much. That was just the beginning of the story.
I could dig. So you knew you was going to make your way even if it wasn't by draft. Because I was going to ask you, did you feel like, man, like some dudes, they don't get drafted. It's like, is this it? Like,
yeah. So
am I going somewhere else?
I never really knew, you know what I mean? Up until maybe like 2 days before the draft, we started having conversations. And then that's when they got explained to me, like, okay, these guys in the first round, their contracts look like this. The end of the first round, their contracts look like this. All of those guys you see get picked in the second round, a lot of them, money is not guaranteed.
Right.
Half of them may get sent to Europe or, to the G League or whatever the case may be. And so that opened my eyes a little bit to say, okay, it's not only about getting your name called, it's about trying to position yourself in a way to make a roster, because that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah.
There's guys that get drafted every year that won't make it through the year.
That's right.
So once I started to understand the business of it, it really made me hungrier and just made me go harder and say, okay, now I got to find a way to make an imprint when I get my chance.
So you had more than 2 chips at that point. You said you was going into it, you had 2 chips. You had more than 2 chips by that time, huh?
No doubt, yeah. They still there too. I just carry them around with me every day.
Truth. So you end up on G League.
Yeah.
And you had to work your way through the ranks. Part of the reason why I love doing this show is I love having the conversations where the struggle of making it through and figuring out at some point within the struggle that there's a process. And sometimes that process got to play out differently for some of us. But nonetheless, the struggle is real. So you end up in G League. So let's stop right there because we're going to come back to the triumph of it. But let's stop right there. And you mentioned earlier the free education, the only way of making it out. And different things like that. Now, I know who you are, and not only do I know who you are, but I even, I'm curious. So when I'm about to have conversations with dudes that I bang with, I start doing a little bit of homework. You know what I mean? And you talked about, you mentioned your brothers and stuff like that. And now you're in business with your brothers.
Yeah.
And you guys do, which I do, obviously I do production and stuff like that. You guys started a production company, but I saw one of the posts your brother had, and it was man, we came a long way. I think he
Yeah.
was getting off of a PJ,
Yeah.
and he was like, we went from what we went. It sounded like the muck of the mud
Yeah.
to now we doing it. We getting it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning. How did you come up? What were the struggles that you guys had to endure? You mentioned being outside of Chicago,
Yeah.
but what were the struggles that y'all were dealing with when y'all was coming up? I know the father part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't want to go down any roads you're not comfortable going down, but I like to give these kids perspective.
No
you
doubt.
know what I mean?
No
So
doubt.
talk to me about the beginning.
Yeah, it's important, and I've grown to learn how to open up and share it because I've learned that I'm not the only person with this story. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's millions of people with these stories. So just to go all the way back to the beginning, which was early as I can remember, my biological father was killed when I was 5 years old. So now it's me and my oldest brother, Darnell, and it's my mom and my grandparents. And, she making do with what she can, 2 jobs. We were kind of living like more on the white side of town where,
Mm-hmm.
her family was from. So from maybe like
And your mom is white.
mom is white, right?
So
My
now
mom is
you
white.
got the light skinned babies,
Yeah,
and y'all on the white side of
yeah,
town.
yeah. She trying to
And
figure,
you ain't that old, but
right,
you ain't old enough where
right, no doubt, no
yeah,
doubt. So I didn't experience like overt racism, you know what I mean? But I still got the like, I was out of place a little bit in a
right,
lot of
like
certain
trying to
areas.
figure
You
it
know what
out,
I'm saying?
right?
So I had to learn how to play both sides. And I think from maybe 5 years old to like 8 or 9, I think when my mom eventually met my stepdad, they moved in, we moved in with them. And so she went, my dad kind of he was making it do what it do. He was running around trying to make amends for his family. And she kind of went from that to a cop. So
Okay.
she got with a cop, and my stepdad is like a military cop discipline. So we kind of went from like running around, the white side of town having fun, and, we staying out as long as we want to. My mom,
Yeah.
she just trying to make it work for us, to like discipline, regiment.
Right.
You know what I mean? You gotta be on point. You gotta, like it was just a different environment. So I got to see both sides. And the schools that I went to and grew up in, at the time, it just felt like, I was a normal kid. But looking back, it was some rough circumstances and things that I'm not sure I would want my kids to have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So I seen a lot at an early age, and I think it just toughened me up a little bit, hardened me up a little bit, gave me a unique perspective on life, because I got to see poor white, poor black. I got to see middle class black, and then eventually, go to college. Now I see white money, you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
certain
Yeah.
things. So I got to experience a lot of that. And it just gave me a great perspective on life. But one thing that my parents really embedded in us was like, we had to be above average. We couldn't be average. And I think that they instilled that. My parents sacrificed their entire lives to make sure that me and my brothers got educations, and we played sports. We didn't have to work. We didn't have to pay bills as teenagers. A lot of my friends did. A lot of my friends had to make ways for themselves and as teenagers to help their families. And we got to be kids. And that's one thing that I'll never be able to repay them for. So Rockford is like one of those Rust Belt towns where, there was the big manufacturing plants, Chrysler and things like that. And then obviously as those things move on, you're stuck with the leftovers. And so it creates a tough environment for kids to grow up in, not much opportunity and not much hope. But we just formed a family built around sports and love, and everybody poured into that. And I was ultimately the one who was able to take it the farthest.
What was one of the biggest challenges during that time? Was it about balancing what you were living as Fred the person and with your family? Was it just being able to overcome the odds? Cause I know for me when I was in high school, I had a lot. And I come from a good family,
Mm-hmm.
but my family I come from some bangers. They bang,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like the balance of good and evil. You
Right.
know what I mean? You got
Right.
one dude on this shoulder that's saying, You know what I mean? Like, do what you need to do. You got the other dude on this shoulder saying, man, F it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
be a real one. You know
Right.
what I mean? Whatever that meant
Right.
at the
Right.
time. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
But how did you, for you, what you needed, what you felt you needed to balance to get immersed in that process in order to be able to put yourself in the position? Because there's a lot of things. You got to get good grades.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be in school.
Mm-hmm.
You got to handle, I don't know if you dealt with girls,
Mm-hmm.
during that time, or if you was too focused, whatever
Yeah.
it was. But I know I dealt with girls, and that threw my focus off at times too,
Right.
because
Right.
you're
Absolutely.
immature.
That's
You
all
know
you
what I
can think
mean?
about. Yeah.
Another dude then hollered at her, and she went for it. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So now I'm dealing with that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you're dealing with a whole lot of different things. What
Right.
did you have to what did you have to balance in order to achieve what you were able to achieve to get to Wichita State?
You know what? I'm a big faith guy and very spiritual, and so now I can look back. I'm not that old, but I can look back to when I was 10 years old, 9 years old, and it's just nothing that I can say but God, right? So I try to tell people like I had a great family too. You know, I had two parents at home. My stepdad, I don't call him my stepdad. That's my father. He raised me. He took me and my brother in. So we were very safe at home. We had a very safe environment. Neither of our parents smoked. They didn't drink. They didn't fight. All they did was go to work and take us to basketball, football practice. So I was very safe. Now, as soon as I leave that house, I'm in the rest of the world. So going to and from school was really like the most treacherous stuff I had to try to maneuver as a young kid, because when I get to this school, there's not really anybody else in the school that has the situation. I got it the best out of everybody, and we not doing great, but we probably doing better than most of my peers. So somehow, some way, sixth grade, as I'm going to middle school, we just formed, maybe it was three, four, five of us. There was like three, four, five of us friends who just kind of all had the same energy and just wanted to be cool, but we didn't really want to do the street thing. And we like playing sports, we like girls. So we just kind of bonded over that. And my best friend, his dad was just like my parents. And so we just kind of locked in and formed our own bond. And just by the grace of God, we just ran into each other. And those are still the guys that I'm with to this day. So I think I was able to create my own world inside of what we were living in, and it allowed me to stay focused. So my friends was kind of on what I was on,
Trying to do the same thing you doing.
we all trying to do the same thing. So
Good.
we
That's
used
good.
to look at the other people and be like, damn, so and so, man, he, like, there was a kid who he was driving to school in sixth grade. You know what I mean? Like, pulling up, like he's got his little duffel bag on. There's nothing in there but a 380. There's no books in there. There's no
No
pencils,
books,
no
nothing. He
calculator.
just ready to get
Yeah,
busy.
it's a 380 in there. This 10 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. At the time, we thought it was normal. We didn't think nothing of it. We just like, all right, we know we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. And then I'll never forget, it was like eighth grade, ninth, going into high school. That was one of our guys. He played on our basketball team. His name was Spider, and he ended up getting killed that summer. And I think that was like a shock to all of us. Like, yo, this shit real. You know what I mean? I had it as a 5-year-old. I didn't really understand it at the time, but at 13, 14, going into high school, we know we want to get to where we want to get to. Like, okay, this is what's going to happen if we go down that path. And we never blamed and we never judged nobody, but we just knew, like, we got to try to do something different. We got to do something different than anybody from this city has ever done. And, thank God we was able to do it.
How does that play a part in how you deal with everyday people? Because for what it's worth, I mean, you're an everyday dude. Like, I could tell, like, by your vibe, you're a good dude. How does that play a part in how you interact? Because I know for me, like I said, it means everything to me. That story's played out way too. I got too many spiders. You know what I mean? So for me, it's always about trying to give back. Like, I'm gonna leave here and go coach a football game tonight. You know what I mean? Like, everything is about trying to educate these babies, and I don't give a damn what color they are. Matter of
Mm-hmm.
fact, out here in Cali, it ain't just black and white. It's black, white. It's more Mexican
Yeah.
and Asian than it is anything else, right? So when you think about kind of, that giving back aspect, it's about giving back, not about who I'm giving back to outside of it being the younger generations. How do you approach that?
Yeah, so I think for me, I just got started. Like maybe my second year in college, they had me come back to do the graduation speech. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I'm 19 speaking to seniors, like, and then we come back again, we do a basketball camp. So I just knew I wanted to stay in tune with the community
Mm-hmm.
because I know what my parents and my good fortune did for my mindset and just having the hope and the belief to be able to go do that, right? So now, as I'm in a better position, I'm trying to afford opportunities to those who wouldn't have them otherwise. And so I keep that real close to my heart. Now, I still do anything that pulls on my heartstrings, whether it's
Yeah.
hospital stuff or whatever. We do Thanksgiving, Christmas giveaways. So before I even knew what a foundation was or how it worked, we was just trying to give back to our community. So now,
Mm-hmm.
as we build it out a little bit more, we're kind of more strategic with it. But I think the biggest thing for me is going to those underserved communities and being present, being around the kids, being a voice and a voice of reason, or just the hope and just to give them that knowledge, because I had so many great mentors as a young kid that
Mm-hmm.
helped me develop into the man that I am. And I think that's one big thing that's missing is you can throw money at a wall, you can do whatever you want, but I think just being there and being able to help these kids grow and really like nurture their minds, because you never know what these kids are going through at home.
That's right.
And I grew up with a lot of them, right? So I know like their situation, they taking care of the family at 12, 13 years
Yeah.
old. Like that's a
Yeah.
lot. That's a lot to handle. And
Mm-hmm.
so for us, I think we try to use our platform to create things that will help those kids first, and then we build from there.
So you end up going pro, play G League, make it onto the regular squad, and then y'all go win a title.
Yeah.
You made history. You scored the most points ever in playoff game from somebody who was undrafted. You made your mark on the basketball court. But you took your success and you built a business with you and your brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of goes back to you saying given the support. Now, if I read it correctly or if I absorbed it correctly, your production company is creating opportunities as well
Mm-hmm.
for people that are aspiring to, what is it, go into the production business, or is it content creating, stuff like
Yeah.
that. I think that's super dope because honestly, it's always been about, people try to tell you don't build your brand, like be
Mm-hmm.
a player, like
Mm-hmm.
be a player, like nah, build your brand too.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you want your brand to be recognizable, whatever that brand is. I want my brand to be recognized as somebody who works hard. I'm a common dude with not
Mm-hmm.
so common expectations. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's my brand,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a bad motherfucker. You know what I mean?
No
Like
doubt. Let it be
that's my
known.
brand. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So in the end, I'm looking at what what you've accomplished on the court. All these shows can do interviews on what guys have done on the court. Like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, you got that J, you
Right.
scored them points. That's great.
Right.
But in the end, you're building something that's not only sustainable for you,
Yeah.
you're building something that's sustainable for your siblings,
Yeah.
and you're building something that's sustainable for your kids to transition into as well.
No doubt.
Talk about that mindset. How did that come about? Y'all getting into the whole content creating deal, and how did that play a part in terms of you going to the league, and I'm certain you were the catalyst of making that happen.
Right.
So how did that all come about?
Well, just to be honest, man, I'm just like, we talked about the upbringing a little bit. So I'm just more of like a make the most out of everything kind of guy. So with that being said, I kind of got my hands in as much stuff as I can without,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm gonna keep basketball first. I know that's what afforded me this platform. And at this stage, you know, as you had a great long career, it becomes second nature. You know what I mean? You can do that. I can go play basketball. Like that part is not that out of this world. Now I gotta focus and all that stuff. But as I'm creating relationships and I'm building up this profile and this platform, I think one thing I do is I keep my guys close. So number one, we're all learning together at the same time. And number two, we are all accessing and having the same access to the opportunities at the same time, because it's not just about me. And I can go and have a long, successful, rich, wealthy career, but if all of my family and my friends and nobody else grows along the way, then that's going to be a pretty lonely road. So
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, I just always looked at it like where we get stuck on the American dream, first generation millionaires, but it's like, okay, then what? Like, okay, then I've never, the longest guys playing maybe in their 40s, 42, 43, maybe. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how old Tom Brady is now, but like for
Oh,
what,
45.
45, right? And that's unheard of.
And that's unheard of.
So
Yeah.
for basketball and football, you know, you got, let's just be generous, a 10, 15-year window, right? And then you got a whole lot of life to live after
There's a whole
that.
lot left. Yeah.
So I understood that from day one because I'm much more than a basketball player.
Word.
That's just what I do. And I try to use the platform to create situations. So we're kind of in every space, you know, we're in content, we're in management. My best friend is my manager, which is how we ended up on this show. He was just
Nice.
sitting next to Plex at the
Yeah, no
bar, and
doubt. Yeah,
here
yeah.
we are. So um, my brothers is my business partners, and my other brother is my basketball trainer. So it's ways to do it, and they teach us to protect your money and don't spend and don't help people. But it's like you can do it. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
smart. You have to be strategic, and it's not going to be easy. But you can definitely help your people along the way just by putting them in positions to win.
Indeed. That's well stated, man. I got two more questions for you now. I'm going to let you ride, dog.
Yep.
First question, or two. You didn't pass the eye test because of your height and all that growing up, whatever, hoops. But then you make it to Toronto and you're playing for the Raptors, and you kind of look like Drake, dog.
Yeah.
So now you all of a sudden now you passing the eye test.
Yeah,
Like,
no doubt.
what's the relationship like with Drake, and how funny is that you got, you know, iconic dude that's like, you know, I'm certain he's a friend
Yeah.
and super cool with you based off of everything y'all got going on with the team
Yeah.
and stuff like that created an opportunity to bond. But what's that relationship like? And do y'all ever try to do stunt double type action, man?
Yeah, so it's crazy, right? Because I remember being, maybe I was a freshman in high school or sophomore in high school. His first tape came out, and I was running it around, sharing it to everybody. You know, nobody really had heard of him at the time. Like, yo,
All
y'all
right.
gotta listen to this dude. Like, this been my favorite artist since I can remember, right?
All
So
right.
just end
I
up
mean, light skinned dudes got to hang together. You
gotta
know what I
stick
mean? Y'all
together,
got
man.
to stick together,
We
right? I
got
got you.
we gotta
I
stick
got you. I
together.
got you.
So fast forward, I just end up, this is how life works. I just end up in Toronto. I end up here, you know what I'm saying? I've been hearing I look like him since I was 15 years old. So it's just funny, right? And
Uh-huh.
he's such a great dude that he played into it. You know what I mean? He kind of put his arm around me a little bit, and we just were able to develop a nice friendship over the years. I'm going on my 7th year there. So yeah, he's just a cool dude, man. He means so
So,
much to that city
yeah.
and to Canada as a country, and
Yeah.
even to our team. You know, that's a good ambassador to have
Give a
for
perk, man. What's a perk of being down with Drakesky with Champagne Pappy?
I mean, I'll just say he's very generous. Like,
All
you
right.
know what I mean? He's very generous. He's moving pretty heavy. So, you know,
Yeah.
if you find yourself in the same vicinity, you know what I mean? He's a very generous dude. He's a good dude.
Word.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah,
Word.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Last question, number 2. What does Fred VanVleet senior, when it's all said and done, when they sitting there and they saying their final, here are my goodbyes, here's how I remember him.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you want to know? What do you want to hear being said in that moment? What's your legacy?
I think my legacy is being a stand-up dude, first and foremost, a good guy, a stand-up guy, a family man, somebody who took his family from where they was to where they are now, created opportunities for everybody involved, and just took the name from, being nothing to a staple and really just changing families' lives. Like, I'm gonna tell this quick story before we get out of here. So my high school basketball coach, very religious and spiritual guy, and he sat me down. I was having trouble being a leader. I was cussing my friend. Like I was terrible. I was a bad teammate. And he made me read the Book of Psalms. And somehow within that time frame, I just remember it hit me like I found what my purpose was. And my purpose was to take my gifts and take it as far as I can. And with that, you're gonna create change that helps so many people. And it used to be like, I want to say the world. And then I got a little older. I understood that's not realistic. So I'm gonna just save my world. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna put everybody in position, and we're gonna live long, happy, healthy lives and take care of these babies that we got, and keep it moving forward.
And that's the legacy.
Yes, sir.
Hey, bro. Appreciate you,
man. No doubt, man. Thank you.
Keep banging, man. Keep chopping wood. You know what I mean?
Sir, every day.
One day at a time. 10 toes down. You dig?
All day. Yes, sir.
My man. I look forward to. I'll meet you one day, man.
Yeah, we're gonna get together. We're gonna get together for sure.
My G. It's been real, man. Appreciate you. But before I let you go, let's do the outro. Here's the outro, y'all. This is Up On Game Presents Conversations with a Legend, and I talked to a GOAT, a legend in his own right, my man, Mr. VanVleet. Freddie, if you're nasty. Freddie. Hey, all right, man. Hey, you be well, man. You take care.
All right, bro. Be in touch. Thank you.
My man. Yes, sir. All right. Okay.